Imagine if Oladipo as inspiration for the design of an African cultural center in the heart of Johannesburg CBD. Enter it. Zoom out 2.0.
Good evening. My name is Arthur Goldstuck. I'll be your waiter for this evening, but if there isn't any food, I'll be your MC for the evening. They've asked me to MC this event because I wrote a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to AI, and now they think I know something about AI. But if you know anything about AI, you'll know that AI knows it all for you. So, in other words, any of you could have been the MC tonight talking about AI with a little help from AI. Talking a little help from AI, what you've just been watching, those who weren't still touching the brains outside, is a video called Loop of Dreams or Noga Mojozi by Anita Sentezi with artists Chaba Mape, Dirkutzer and Menzi and Ndlovu. And to quote them, 3 architects use AI scripting to dream of spatial change in Johannesburg, confronting the city's past and present to envisage a future through speculative design. It's symbolic of the intentions of the Mind Institute, of the Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome, and part of the reason why we are all here today. But first, some housekeeping, and that is to mention that the interactive exhibition outside includes the Evolutionary Neuroscience Laboratory by 4 fellows of the Wits Mind Institute, and they consider their lab the natural ecosystems of Africa, which also talks to the purpose of being here tonight. Some of you have touched the brain, some of you have dodged the robot. Others, if you need to know, the ablution facilities are on the in the foyer in the ground floor. Smoking is not allowed in the digital dome, and nor is the use of cell phones while you're in the digital dome. So I'm praying that I put my phone on silent before I came up here. Otherwise, Professor Zeblon is going to have some words with me. But talking about the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of the Witwatersrand, Professor Zeblon Vilakazi, I would like to introduce him by making the point first that he is committed to making a positive impact on society through creating and advancing global knowledge and fostering graduates to be leaders with integrity. He has a PhD from Wits going back to 1998 and a postdoctoral fellowship in Geneva at the European Centre for Nuclear Research, the legendary CERN Institute. At UCT in 1999, he helped establish South Africa's first experimental high-energy physics research group focused on the development of the high-level trigger for the CERN ALICE experiment at the Large Hadron Collider. So he was instrumental in one of the great scientific breakthroughs of the past 30 years. He was chairperson of the International Atomic Energy Agency's Standing Advisory Committee on Nuclear Applications from 2009 to 2011, and a member of the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics Working Group for Nuclear Physics. You might think I'm going into a lot of detail, but it's important to understand the contribution that Professor Vilakazi has made and the stature that he brings to this university. In 2022, he was appointed a Fellow of the Royal Society in the UK, one of the world's most prestigious scientific academies. I could go on for a while, but then there won't be time for the professor himself to talk. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Professor Zeblon Vilakazi to address you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good evening. Dr. Judy Dlamini, Chancellor of the University of the Witwatersrand, and I think she just might leave shortly or has just left. Professor Lynn Morris, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation. The man of the moment, Benji Rosman, Professor Benji Rosman, Director of the Wits Machine Intelligence and Neural Discovery Institute, MIND. My friend and the former vice president for IBM Research and founding director of IBM Research Africa, Dr. Solomon Asefa, and of course an honorary professor here at Wits as well. Members of the University of the Witwatersrand Foundation Board of Governors, industry partners, visiting academics from across the world, distinguished guests, faculty, the senior executive team members, staff, students, and Witsis. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you to this momentous occasion, the launch of the Wits Machine Intelligence and Neural Discovery Institute, or MIND. Today we gather in this inspiring Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome, a space that embodies both innovation and boundless potential for human imagination. It opens up an infinite possibility of universes that will unravel. Launched last week, exactly a week ago, this dome is more than a physical structure. It's a state of art as an immersive facility, equipped with advanced visualization technology that transforms data into breathtaking interactive experiences, as you will bear witness shortly. It's a place designed to challenge perspectives, ignite imagination, and reframe our understanding of the world and the universe around us. I'd like to extend a special thank you to our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Arthur Goldstruck. Arthur is not only a distinguished journalist and one of South Africa's foremost voices on technology, and I'm a regular follower of his articles, but of course, more importantly, he's a Wits alumnus whose current engagement with this university reflects a deep and enduring connection to his alma mater. Thank you, Arthur. Arthur, along with his brother Charles, is pursuing an innovative doctoral project at Wits, combining the fields of AI with music. This collaborative approach exemplifies the spirit of inter and transdisciplinarity that you are trying to foster and that you are celebrating today. It's a wonderful reminder of the powerful synergy that emerges when creativity and technology intersect, something we'll explore further as MIND evolves. This is a perfect match, dome and mind, as beautifully reflected in the connection between the dome and mind. The dome stands as a physical infrastructure. The body is a body that houses the mind, a meeting point where the sciences, humanities, engineering, health sciences, and the fine art intersect. Just as the dome pushes the boundaries of how we see and interact with information and data, mind will push the boundaries of what we know about intelligence itself, be it human, animal, or natural, or artificial. Together, they reflect our vision of breaking boundaries to create new possibilities. I don't think that there's any other institution in the world that has the same kind of approach, convergent approach as MIND. Well done to those that have really been pioneering and daring in achieving this. We are proud to lead Africa in this transformative space. MIND encapsulates our years of investment in AI capacity building, from nurturing the innovative research to supporting initiatives like deep learning in Indaba. Today, we are not just joining a global conversation on AI. We are shaping it from the vantage point of Johannesburg. MIND ensures that Africa's unique challenges and opportunities inform our breakthroughs that matter. Talking about innovations that are sustainable and will have a global impact from the vantage point of Johannesburg and the continent. I'm here to welcome the friends from IBM, but let me talk about the strategic partnership with IBM. It's my pleasure to share with you that this is a long-term partnership, predating even most of us in our incumbency of office. IBM started in 1960. Our relationship started in 1960. Professor Pozzoli, then Vice Chancellor, purchased an IBM Model 1621 Mark I in the 1960s. Dr. Derek not Hanekom, Dr. Derek Henderson, who was the director of the Wits Computer Science and the first IBM professor of computer sciences. You see, it's an endowed chair by IBM, Alessandro. Hint, hint. And it was the first of any South African university. In 2016, with my friend Solomon, we announced a partnership focusing on big data, cloud computing, and mobile tech at Simologong. That was an institute that Barry Dolaski, who departed us last year, established. In 2019, with the spurring of Solomon, IBM and Wits announced the first African partnership on IBM Q network that put us on the frontiers of development of quantum computing. With nearly a decade of collaboration between us and IBM, it is fitting that we take this collaboration to new heights. It will bring together world-class expertise and a shared commitment to advancing ethical and impactful AI development. Together with this initiative that really was driven by Benji, Solomon, and Barry, and of course, Professor Lynn Morris was there stewarding it from the helicopter point of view. Congratulations, Professor Morris, and the Dean of the Faculty of Science, and everyone who's been involved in this. Together, we will ensure that Mind's vision translates into meaningful solutions, addressing Africa's most pressing challenges, whilst contributing to global progress by being at the frontier of the research that will lead to new innovations here in Johannesburg, here at Wits, here in South Africa and Africa. Now, let me introduce Dr. Alessandro Curioni. It's my honor to introduce someone who embodies the spirit of innovation and collaboration that Minds seeks to foster. Dr. Curioni is an IBM Fellow, Vice President of IBM Europe and Africa, and Director of the IBM Research Lab in Zurich, Switzerland. He is responsible for IBM corporate research in Europe and leads IBM's global strategies in accelerated discovery and security. Dr. Curioni is an internationally recognized leader in the area of high-performance computing, HPC, and computational science, where his innovative thinking and seminal contributions have helped solve some of the most complex scientific and technological problems, be they in healthcare, aerospace, consumer goods, and electronics. He was a member of the winning team that received the prestigious Gordon Bell Prize in 2013, and they also won it in 2015. His research interests now include AI, big data, novel computing paradigms such as neuromorphic and quantum computing, of which I spoke about earlier. Dr. Curioni received his undergraduate degree in theoretical chemistry and his PhD from the Scuola Normale Superiore in Pisa, Italy, arguably the most elite scientific school in the whole of Italy. That speaks about the man's prowess. He started his career at IBM Research Zurich, as a PhD student in 1993 before officially joining as a research staff member in 1998. He has led several research and management roles, including being the founding manager of the Cognitive Computing and Computational Sciences Department. He's a member of the Swiss Academy of Technical Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in saying benvenuto alla Dottore Curioni. Grazie mille.
So, good evening, everybody. Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Zebron Vilakazi, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Research of Innovation, Professor Lynn Morris, Director of the Mind Institute, Professor Benjamin Rosman, Distinguished Professor of Computer Science, Professor Bruce Bassett, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It is really both a big honor and a privilege to stand before you today as we inaugurate the Mind Institute, Machine Intelligence and Neural Discovery. This moment marks not only a milestone for this institution, but also for the broader AI and innovation landscape on the African continent and the globe. It is also a milestone moment as we continue to strengthen the strategic partnership between IBM and Wits University, building on over a decade of collaborating together and developing skills at the frontier of computing. Let me begin by extending again my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Zebulon Vilakatsi for his visionary leadership in fostering a culture of innovation and excellence. Professor Lynn Morris for her unwavering commitment to advance research and innovation, and Professor Benjamin Rosman for all the starting of this groundbreaking initiative with a remarkable dedication. And their collective effort have been really instrumental in making the Mind Institute a reality, not an easy task. The Mind Institute is a beacon of hope and progress dedicated to accelerating open innovation and scientific breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. This initiative is rooted in a mission to improve AI foundation capabilities while prioritizing safety, security, trust, and, very importantly, a societal impact. Together, IBM and Wits, we aim to responsibly maximize the benefit of AI for humanity. And today, AI, particularly in the new form of foundation models and large language models built with self-supervised learning, is reshaping completely the technological landscape. To me, personally, this new wave of AI is one of the most transformationally IT technology of the last 30 years, standing alongside with quantum computing as a force of comparable to the invention of the transistor and to the development of the internet, to that level. The World Economic Forum, for example, estimates that the new AI will contribute an estimated $4.4 trillion annually to the global economy, reshaping industry and international trade. These models are unique in their power to infuse every process, impact every job, and transform every profession. Their adaptability, generality, scalability, and generative capabilities make them central to the future of innovation. However, as usual, with great power comes great responsibility. We must develop AI in ways that are ethical, open, transparent, and governed by a commitment to equity, inclusion, and accountability. It is for these reasons that the Mind Institute and its collaboration of IBM is going to focus on 3 initial core areas of research and innovation. The first one is fundamental AI research. There we will explore the development of AI models and algorithms with enhanced performance, scalability, and resource efficiency. Very, very important. Our teams will investigate novel architectures suited for low resource and linguistic diverse settings, which are essential for Africa and for other underrepresented regions of the world. We aim to pursue energy and data efficiency AI models inspired by a biological system to optimize performance in a limited resource environment. The second application, that is a more direct application that will impact society, is the use of AI for drug discovery. Harnessing the power of open foundation models, we will create applications and tools to accelerate drug discovery. For example, helping to identify cost-effective chemotherapeutic options through drug repurposing, This effort has the potential to revolutionize access to healthcare by addressing challenges in affordability and scalability. Last but not least important, we are going to focus on AI governance. Recognizing critical need for trust in AI, we are committed to advancing tools that enable rigorous evaluation of AI safety and trust. By embedding governance into every stage of development and use of AI, we aim to ensure that AI serves society responsibly and in an equitable way. Africa, with its rich diversity and dynamic potential, for me, is uniquely positioned to lead this new frontier of AI innovation. Even if you start late, this revolution gives you huge possibility to make a difference and becoming a leader. The Mind Institute will serve as a hub for groundbreaking research, fostering partnership between academic, industry and government to take some of the world's most pressing challenges, and IBM is deeply honored to collaborate with Wits in this historical endeavor. Our commitments to responsible AI development, open collaboration, and addressing global challenges align directly with the vision of the Mind Institute, where the human is at the center. Through this partnership, we will accelerate the development of AI solutions that are transformative, yet ethical, innovative, but yet inclusive. To conclude, let me say that none of this work can happen without a pipeline of research talent. We intend to closely continue to collaborate with the Mind Institute to develop a robust pipeline of talent in alignment with past initiatives, such as IBM South Africa Equity Equivalence and Investment Program, which supported the numerous undergraduate and postgraduate students at Wits. Let us remember, transformative technology like the new AI are not inherently good or bad. They are very powerful tools. Their impact depends entirely on how we choose to develop and use them. The Mind Institute represents a choice to innovate responsibly, to govern transparently, and to build a future where technology serves humanity as a force for good. Thank you to all who made this moment possible. Together, let us embark in this journey to advance AI, transform industry, and most importantly, transform lives for better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Corioni. I think we should be rolling video now, right? If not, anybody?
Unlocking the potential of intelligence, we begin with human curiosity, inspired by nature's ingenuity. From the self-assembly of DNA to the wisdom of the forests. We delve into understanding natural intelligence. Advancing together through technology, we build artificial intelligence that mirrors the complexity and elegance of the natural world. By applying artificial intelligence, we tackle economic and social challenges, striving to improve health, education, and prosperity across Africa. building a future guided by ethics and responsibility. We champion responsible AI to ensure technology serves humanity. Join Wits Mind in pioneering Africa's future in natural and artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Dr. Corioni, for your inspiring words. Before I introduce Professor Rosman, I want to talk to you about the concept of disappearing AI. Imagine a future where artificial intelligence isn't just a tool we recognize, but something so deeply embedded in everything we do that it disappears. But rather than diminishing in importance, AI will quietly underpin the vast web of connected human activity. It will transform industries, shape decisions, optimize systems without people even realizing it. In logistics, for example, predictive systems will optimize supply chains, reducing waste and increasing efficiency. In healthcare, AI will automate diagnostics and streamline administration. On farms, smart sensors will guide irrigation and fertilization with precision. To those working in these fields, these changes might appear as improved tools or workflows, not as the work of AI. And this disappearance of AI is by design. AI is disappearing into the background as a quiet force driving progress in the forefront of human activity. But this presents an ironic reality. As AI becomes ubiquitous, it will seem less prominent even as its influence deepens. AI will become something that is adjacent to what we do. In other words, the world will become AI adjacent. And this shift challenges our institutions, especially those at the cutting edge of intelligence research, to rethink their roles. For them, the task is not only to innovate, but also to make AI's presence transparent, accountable, and relevant, something that becomes more difficult when it has disappeared into the background. Research must evolve to address the profound implications of intelligence woven into the fabric of daily life. The question is not whether AI will transform society. You've heard from Dr. Corioni, it already will. It already has. The challenge is ensuring, as he said, that this transformation is equitable, ethical, and sustainable. In its quiet ubiquity, AI holds immense power. And as stewards of this new era, we must never lose sight of the sources of that power, its relationship with intelligence, and how it can be harnessed for the good of humanity and of our world. Wits University is not only at the cutting edge of AI, but also at the cutting edge of rethinking its role in the entire field of intelligence. That has culminated in the creation of the Mind Institute and a journey into the very essence of intelligence itself. To guide us on this journey, may I introduce the inaugural director of the Mind Institute, Professor Benjamin Rosman. He is professor in the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics. He runs the Robotics, Autonomous Intelligence and Learning, that is RAIL, R-A-I-L, laboratory. He also guides robot dogs around people's feet. He's director of the National eScience Postgraduate Teaching and Training Platform, and he's chief science officer of Lalapa AI, building AI for Africans by Africans. Professor Benjamin Rosman.
Wow, you really can't see much from up here. Right. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us to celebrate the opening of the Wits Machine Intelligence and Neural Discovery or MIND Institute in this glorious digital dome. I can't think of a more fitting venue to launch an institute dedicated to the relationship between us and the technological future. It's such an honor to be able to stand here before you to discuss this institute that so many people have been working really flat out to launch over the last few months. I think it stands as a testament to not just the amazing depth of talent that we have here at Wits, but also how quickly we can respond and adapt to the pressing questions of our time. On the surface, you could describe MIND as Wits's AI Institute, but really it is so much more than just that. Building on all the work that has been done in the space at Wits over the last decade, it is the first institute in Africa to focus on AI as a science itself, rather than just a tool that can be applied to other fields. But even more importantly, MIND explicitly recognizes that better understanding natural intelligence can lead to breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, and vice versa. For this reason, MIND brings together researchers from different fields that consider different aspects of intelligence in machines, humans, and animals, with the aim of discovering and pursuing new ideas on all of these fronts in an interdisciplinary way. This is really an exciting time for AI, and I think particularly in Africa. The development of African AI over the last 8 years has been really incredible. Just to tell a story that I've been very involved in 2017, together with 7 other colleagues, I co-founded the Deep Learning Indaba. We wanted to run a very technical machine learning workshop for the African AI community, really in recognition of the fact that African machine learning was barely featured on the international scene. When we were doing this, we expected that if we kind of really probe deeply into our networks, we might find 30 people who would be interested to attend. The first event was held at Wits in September 2017 and had 330 attendees from all over Africa. Since then, this has grown extensively and is run annually in different parts of the continent to become the largest machine learning summer school in the world. The organization also supports locally organized satellite events called the Indaba X events, and this year they're running in 47 African countries. The African AI network now numbers in the tens of thousands of really passionate, really talented people, and is probably the best connected AI network in the world. But when you look at all the amazing work that's been done in AI across the continent, one gap becomes apparent. There are hardly any researchers doing fundamental AI research, which is building new AI methods. Almost everyone who is doing AI is really using AI developed elsewhere, rather than innovating and building new core technologies. I would say that, in an unbiased way, one notable exception is the research done here at Wits Computer Science, which is divided into 3 large and, may I say, very successful research labs. There's the Rail Lab, which I lead, the Prime Lab, led by Professor Richard Klein, and the Explainable AI Lab of Professor Ritesh Ajuda. But this means that as a continent, we're almost completely dependent on technologies built elsewhere. This is risky, because if we remain consumers of the technologies of others, then the gap between Africa and the rest of the world will widen. We have to push on this frontier if we want to stay economically competitive, build AI that is suited to our people and our problems, and really importantly, ensure that AI is built in a way that is safe and responsible. So now, with all of that context, I'm excited to tell you how MIND is positioning Wits to answer this call at an even greater scale. At the core of MIND is a set of academic fellows that will be selected every year through a competitive process. These are Wits academics with an interest in some aspect of either artificial or natural intelligence. These are researchers that we also believe are asking the big questions and are likely to be good collaborators. The selected fellows all commit to spending some of their research time engaged in mind activities, which largely take the form of regular meetings and then workshops which do deep dives into broad but relevant topics. The kind of main goal of this group is to search for new, big ideas. We enable this by regularly giving the fellows the chance to apply for seed project funding to tackle new ideas, as long as the idea is actually new and exciting, and as long as the project involves fellows from different schools. In this way, we aim to incubate dozens of novel, crazy ideas every year, with the hope that at least a few of them turn out to be revolutionary. So before we launched, we've already selected 34 fellows this year, and they're drawn from all 5 faculties across Wits, and even the research office. These people represent world-leading research groups in areas such as AI, neuropsychology, neuroanatomy, evolution, and digital governance. We've also already run the first of these workshops, which was an introductory workshop, which led to fascinating interdisciplinary discussions on topics ranging from computational efficiency to the benefits of sleep in brains and sleep-like processes in AI to consciousness. Actually, this first workshop has already seeded novel project ideas, such as emulating sleep deprivation in large language models and computationally modeling the role of the brainstem. So, I'm now proud to announce the first cohort of Mind Fellows. Unfortunately, they're not all here today, because as is always the case when you have a prestigious group of academics, it's basically impossible to find a time when half of them are not traveling the world and attending conferences and other events. But what I would like to do, if the lighting in this room could permit it, would be to call their names and ask them to stand. So, lighting in the room, would you permit this? Hey, an audience, cool. All right, so please, as I call your name, if you happen to be here, then stand. If you don't happen to be here, you don't have to do anything. This is in alphabetical order, and please just remain standing until I've named all of you so that the audience can see who you are. First, we have Professor Ritesh Ajudha, who's an associate professor in computer science and the director of the Explainable AI Lab. We've then got Professor Bruce Bassett, who's a distinguished professor of computer science and the Mind AI chair for the Faculty of Science. We've got Dr. Hairong Bao, who's a senior lecturer in the School of Computer Science and Applied Maths and a member of the Prime Lab. Dr. Martin Becker, who's a lecturer in the School of Electronic and Information Engineering. Professor Julian Benoit is an associate professor in the Evolutionary Studies Institute in the School of Anatomical Sciences. Dr. Sahba Besharati, associate researcher in the Department of Psychology and a co-founder and joint director of the Neuroscience Research Lab, which is Wits Neural. Professor Robert Brayman is the interim director of the Infectious Diseases and Oncology Research Institute. Dr. Mary Carman is a senior lecturer in philosophy. Professor Kate Cockcroft is a professor in the Department of Psychology and also co-leader of the Wits Neuroscience Research Lab, Wits Neural. Dr. Mitchell Cox is a senior lecturer in electrical engineering and the co-founder of the Optical Communication Lab. Dr. Joshua Davies is a senior lecturer in the School of Anatomical Sciences. Prof. Eleni Ferreira Carrera, an associate professor in the Department of Psychology and a member of Wits Neural. Eleni Flack-Davidson is the head of the Research Integrity Office, legal advisor, research compliance manager, and research data protection officer. Professor Eugenio Gagliardoni is a professor of media studies. Dr. Brandon Ingram is a lecturer in computer science. Dr. Stephen James, a senior lecturer in computer science and the deputy director of the Rail Lab. See, there's lots of cool people. Devin Jarvis is an associate lecturer in the School of Computer Science and Applied Maths. Prof. Ismail Kala is the academic head of Department of Internal Medicine, an associate professor in the Division of Pulmonology and Critical Care Medicine. Prof. Geshi Karuri Sabina is an associate professor at the Wits School of Governance and the director of the Tairisha Center for Digital Governance. Professor Richard Klein, associate professor and the deputy head of school of the School of Computer Science and Applied Maths, and also the director of the Prime Research Lab. Dr. Pierre Linchamp is a postdoctoral fellow in genus in the School of Geography, Archaeology, and Environmental Studies. Professor Tokozani Majosi is a professor and executive dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment and a professor in the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering. I'll take a break for a second. Dr. Ilka Malungo is a lecturer in the School of Anatomical Sciences. Professor Paul Manga is a research professor in anatomical sciences. Professor Padamoyo Mangara is the head of School of Geography, Archaeology, and Environmental Studies. Dr. Farai Mlambo is a senior lecturer and the director of the Statistical Machine Learning, Data Science, and Analytics Lab at the Wits Business School. Dr. Kondlo Mchali is a lecturer of Philosophy of Mind. Dr. Isaac Nape is a lecturer in the Structured Light Lab and the Optica Emerging Leader in Optics Chair. Dr. Ayanda Ngwenya is a senior lecturer in the School of Anatomical Sciences. Dr. Pravesh Ranchard is a senior tutor, Machine Learning and Robotics in the School of Computer Science and Applied Maths. Dr. Olu Randall is the head of the Digital Art Department. Jared Shipton is an associate lecturer in the School of Computer Science and Applied Maths. Dr. Gerard Nangtase is a sessional lecturer in computer science. And Dr. Victoria Williams is a postdoctoral research fellow in computer science. So if you look around the room, it's a very impressive group of people. And please, can we applaud them? So I really want to thank all of you for so enthusiastically stepping forward and embracing collaboration to advance our understanding of intelligence in the natural and artificial worlds. I'm really excited to see the new breakthroughs that we come up with together. To everyone else in the room, these are the great minds that are powering this institute, so please make sure you track them all down later at dinner. From next year, the Fellows will be supported by 2 other programs. The African Fellows Program will let academics from other universities across South Africa and Africa become affiliated with MIND. This will build a continent-wide network of related researchers and give support to researchers in other institutions that don't really have the same kind of community and support around them that we have here at Wits, while also adding to the richness and diversity of the discussions that we can hold within MIND. We'll then also be launching a Visiting Scholars Program, with the aim of continuously hosting multiple researchers from around the world. We've already been trialing this with visitors from the US, Canada, and Australia, and we'll be focusing on longer-term visits in the future. We're in the process of forming partnerships with kind of all of the most important AI institutes, networks, and universities around the world to facilitate these visits. MIND will also then be holding different kinds of events, ranging from internal seminar series to public lectures and technical workshops. We've actually already co-hosted a workshop in brain imaging a few weeks ago at the Wits Rural Campus, which was largely funded by CIFAR, the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research, which was also the first major international organization to partner with us. And this was organized completely by 2 of our fellows, Sahba and Alini. We're incredibly grateful for the significant financial support that we've already received from our collaborators and partners in IBM. And we're also grateful for the grant we've received from Google Research. We're also very appreciative for all the support from all the organizations and institutions and academics, including CIFAR, Ellis, Mila, IRCAI, Mozilla, Apple, the University of Edinburgh, UCL, Cornell, Brown University, and many, many more. There have been so many people that have been helping us in get this off the ground. With this integrated core of fellows that really is the engine room of MIND, we're in a strong position to support other research as well across Wits, to address issues in industry and in the country, and also to act as a bit of a policy think tank. To facilitate all of this, we're also in the process of hiring several MIND AI chairs, with at least one for each of the 5 faculties at Wits. we've already hired Professor Bruce Bassett into one of these roles. In addition to working with the fellows, the chairs will each provide support to that faculty in everything from finding ways to supercharge other research projects in that faculty, in whatever discipline they might be in, and also giving advice on matters like teaching and learning, so we can really benefit across the university from all this expertise that's sitting together. We're also in the process of raising funding for Mind industry chairs to work alongside different industry sectors to, in a similar way, solve their major problems that they're facing and acting as bridges between industry and the rest of Mind. We'll also be hiring other researchers to help the chairs deploy these solutions to enhance these projects across the university, industry, and society more broadly. In a similar way, the combination of deep technical expertise with our active researchers and voices in fields like policy and ethics positions Mind perfectly to play a leading advisory role in these rapidly changing times on questions affecting government, corporates, and the country as a whole. In fact, again, many of our fellows have already been involved in many government advisory positions as our AI policies are being formulated as a country. So considering all of this together, Mind is here to take the best that Wits and ultimately Africa has to offer and break down all the silos between them to ensure that we're contributing to the development of artificial intelligence and the understanding of natural intelligence. We then strive to apply the latest advances in these fundamental sciences to a wide range of problems and ensure that this is all done in a way that's maximally beneficial to society. I just quickly want to thank the so many people in and around Wits for their tremendous amount of work that's gone into establishing this institute, I think pretty much in record time. The original discussions on this, Zebulon, we kind of started discussing this towards the end of last year, and this year has been a bit of a blur in getting this all together. So Professors Zebulon Vilakazi, Lynn Morris, Solomon Asefa, and the late Barry Dwulatsky really illuminated the path with their intellectual leadership and vision. Dr. Robin Drennan ensured that every organizational detail was in place and really was our constant cheerleader. And Professor Bruce Bassett was always a great sounding board. The rest of the Wits senior executive team has really supported us in every possible way from the first day, which really inspired us from the beginning. I've really got to thank Catherine for literally herding all the academic cats and working tirelessly to make sure that this launch didn't remain just a dream. And a special thanks to Peter and Shanae and the rest of the fundraising team, to Sharona, Reshma, Erna, Pam, and the rest of the communications and marketing teams, to Tembi and the Wits events team, Mamita and the whole Dome team. All of these people and many more have worked evenings and weekends to make this a reality. A huge thanks also to Angus, Olu, and Farai for helping with the visual content, to Brad for the branding, Stephanie and Stone in the Shoe for the videos, to Paul for bringing us some brains to hang out with in the foyer, Devin and Gerard for organizing the robots, and Mick and Dean for providing the other one. And then thanks to all the fellows and the Rail Lab for stepping in whenever we needed everything, and particularly to Steve for bailing me out of crises every other day. Many others have helped along the way, and really thank you to all of you. All of these amazing people have just given me so much confidence that Mind will be a massive success. Just seeing everyone step in and pull together with all their different backgrounds has really been inspiring. And then finally, thanks so much to all of you here today for walking this journey with us. This is something new, this is a bit of an experiment, and something we're really excited about. But as AI becomes an increasingly dominant part of our lives, Mind will be there to ensure that Africa always has an equal seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rosman. I think this introduction gives you a very good idea of the kind of fermentation of ideas that's happening at the university. It's that ferment of ideas and possibilities that brought myself and my twin brother back to Wits to collaborate with the university. And it's that fermentation that you're going to see really result in some a really good, hopefully single malt whiskey, as well as great ideas emerging from the university in the coming years. And on that note, talking of a fermentation of ideas, I'm going to invite to the stage our 5 panelists who will truly represent that fermentation and that collaboration as well. And each of them from completely different sectors of the AI world, to also give you an idea how rich it is. And I'm going to ask for the lights to come on again, because it's far easier to talk to an audience we can actually see. And I think the panelists will enjoy that as well, to see the reactions of horror from some in the audience and delight from others in the audience. So if the lights could come on, I would like to introduce you and call to the podium or to their seats Professor Bruce Bassett, Distinguished Professor of Computer Science at Wits, also Professor of Applied Mathematics at the University of Cape Town. Professor Ashili Mbembe, who is Research Professor of History and Politics at the Wits Institute for Social and Economic Research, but more significantly, winner of the Holberg Prize, the premier prize for humanities. It's been described as the Nobel Prize of Humanities. And meeting him, you would never guess that he is such a humble human being, and I cannot wait to hear his perspectives. And then Pelenomi Moiloa, CEO of Lalapa AI, that you've been hearing a lot about, and one of Time's 100 most influential people in AI for 2023. Then Dr. Mark Nasila, who I had the pleasure of meeting 5 years ago and was really astonished by his thinking back then. He's Chief Data and Analytics Officer at First National Bank, and his book, African Artificial Intelligence, came out recently and is on sale in the foyer, alongside a book called Hitchhiker's Guide to Something, which, by the way, has a foreword by Professor Benjamin Rosman. Then finally, Dr. Aisha Wolcott-Bryant, Senior Staff Research Scientist and Head of Google Research Africa, who also has been awarded MIT's Martin Luther King Leadership Award and named one of the top 50 women in robotics you need to know. So you need to speak to her afterwards. But in the meantime, I'm going to be posing a set of questions to them. Just to give you a sense of the housekeeping here, we have half an hour for their questions. When there's 5 people, that means 6 minutes each, 2 questions each. AI told me this. And then we have 10 minutes of Q&A. But AI, if you do a search on ChatGPT, it'll tell you if there's only 10 minutes for Q&A, it means that with 5 people, they might each have 2 minutes to talk. So I'm going to ask people to put their questions very briefly, not to make statements from the floor, but also to direct it to a specific person, because each person will only answer one question. So you've been forewarned and forearmed as well with whatever questions you want to ask. But meanwhile, I'm going to ask the panelists, and can we get the lights up again? We'd like to see the audience. I'm going to ask each of the panelists first to answer a very simple question, and that is, what is intelligence? And we'll start with Bruce Bassett on this side.
Okay. Can everyone hear at the back? Mic check. Okay, there we go. Awesome. So that's a tough question, and I realized I've never thought about it before. So I'm going to fall back on physics. I think for me, the essence of intelligence, a subsystem is intelligent if it has a goal, and that goal must essentially counteract entropy, the direction of entropy. And so I think there's a higher form of intelligence if that subsystem, the further it can look ahead and the larger the subsystem that it can optimize. So I can be intelligent and be very selfish to maximize my good today. It's hard to optimize for my good for 20 years, and it's hard to optimize for an entire country. That takes real intelligence. So I think intelligence correlates with going against entropy, having a goal, and maximizing the time and domain of that goal. So I apologize for the physics.
I'm most impressed with coming in at under 3 minutes. Shili Mbembe.
I think many believe that intelligence is about calculation, that it's about instrumentality. I would argue that this is partly true. I would argue that there are many forms of intelligence. This evening we have heard about natural intelligence. I would call it nature's intelligence, intelligence of trees, of microbes, of plants. We have also heard about artificial intelligence. I would say that more than about calculation, intelligence is about relations. It's about the capacity we nurture and develop in order to locate ourselves in the environments we inhabit, of which we are only one of the many inhabitants. And on the basis of that location, it's about the capacity to build relations with all the other inhabitants of those milieus. That's how I would define intelligence.
Thank you, Professor Mbembe. Pelenomi Moloya, how do you describe or define intelligence?
Yeah, I was in a similar place as Bruce. When you asked this question earlier, I was like, I don't think I know. And if I did know, I probably would not be involved in the fields that I am, because it does feel like even my academic experience. I was at that first conference, Deep Learning Endava Benji, held in the Science Stadium, and my poster was using neural networks to understand neural networks. So I'm really glad that there's a Mind Institute and people like me don't have to go to Japan now to discover those types of things. But yeah, I'm not sure that I know, but my intuition is similar to that of a mixture of these two interpretations, in that, I mean, watching that video earlier, I was like, what makes a mushroom intelligent? In the same way that a kid solving a maths problem is also intelligent, in the same way that other things that we consider to be intelligence, well, at least I do. How does that manifest? And it, for me, is, yes, an active will of some kind to change the external environment, whether that be through electrical impulses in the brain, changing the electrochemistry in the brain to a mathematics sum, or whether that be a mushroom desiring to replicate itself. I think that active will, as Bruce described, might be a goal, but I don't think it always necessarily has a goal. But that action upon the external environment is a relationship with that environment and changing it in some way. Yeah.
Fascinating. Dr. Nasira, your book is vast. I'd be fascinated to hear how you distill that into a 2.5 to 3 minute description of intelligence.
I think I'll compliment my fellow colleagues. I think, especially in relation to artificial intelligence, I will think of it as the ability to possess cognitive abilities that actually most of the time make us to be human. Some of these abilities or attributes could be problem solving, could be making decisions with minimal supervision, learning from data, generating language. And I think if you've been following the progress of AI, we're talking about intelligence in relation to ability to make decisions and even take actions on those decisions. And I think that's what I look at, what constitutes intelligence.
That's very short and sweet. Thank you. Dr. Walcott-Bryant, your organization probably knows more than anyone else what we all want to know all the time. Are you able to distill that into what you believe is intelligence?
I will speak as myself, one of 8 billion on the planet. Some happen to work in that company, some work in others. First, when you mentioned it, I had the similar reaction. Mine was, well, what is unnatural intelligence, or what is natural unintelligence? And that's where my mind went. But instead of sort of saying what they said, I'll talk about maybe an example that is complicated for me to understand the elements of intelligence. So I have a wonderful blessing for this moment in my life of walking my daughter to school. She's 11. And yes, she does Python and robots because she must, but she also sews. But this year I had to really tell her about loss, very close to her. And I couldn't figure out, when do I tell her about loss and what do I say? So if we're maximizing objective function. Underneath all of this is love, which I can't explain yet. Maybe that's intelligence. So I thought of every scenario possible, and the ability, and then when I told her, which was on a walk to school, and she melted. I didn't know that she would melt, and I told her in 2 chunks. First, it's like, this is what happened, and then this was the outcome. And then I'm looking at the clock for school. She needs to be at school, and I say, okay, what do we do now? Like, do we go back? I'm not very good at this. I've never done this before. So yes, I went back, took her back, told my husband, this is what happened. And then I knew that she's comfortable talking to her counselor. So points of that might have intelligence, I'm not sure. Again, anchored in love with an objective function of this thriving, wonderful human being that doesn't make sense. But to know that I'm going to take her to school and hand her to a counselor I've never met before, and that counselor has their own objective function for her. Perhaps she'll ask, did you talk to your parents? And then try to define their own world state, and then say, here's how I can help you. So that handoff of this person I don't even know about, I think for me is an example of intelligence that I don't know how to quantify, but I think is equally as important to this kind of conversation.
Thank you. I think that very personal perspective ties in with everyone else's sense of intelligence being personal. And that's the challenge for artificial intelligence as well, that intelligence itself is so personal, and yet AI can be so impersonal. What I'm going to do now is ask each of the panelists a question that I hope will give the audience a sense of where AI is currently and what its potential is across all the various fields in which our panelists operate. And I'm going to start with Professor Bassett again. And hopefully he has thought about this question, which is, what role does natural intelligence have to play in the age of AI? What can it teach us about AI and vice versa?
So maybe I'll say 3 things. The one is, obviously right now, natural intelligence has a lot to say about AI. 20 years from now, it's not clear. 50 years from now, it's not clear. Who knows? So at least for the short term, we can definitely learn. I use the term AI, artificial intelligence, every day, but it's actually a term that I hate. I really hate the term artificial intelligence. And I love much more machine intelligence, which is the original Turing definition. The reason I don't like it is, who wants something artificial? Right? It sounds, by construction, not as good as the real thing. And of course, for the most part, that's true. But the danger, I think one of the things about humans is we love to feel better than other people, right? And in many ways, the arc of modern science is giving up that feeling of being special. And we used to think that we're different from animals, then evolution comes along and says, well, they're actually intimately linked. We used to think that we're the center of the universe. That was a religious dogma. Then we realized, the earth is not special. So at the moment, we talk about artificial intelligence. Human intelligence is above artificial intelligence. And the danger with that is it precludes us from thinking, well, maybe, although AI can't do many things that we do well, like emotions, maybe there are elements that it does incredibly well that are really valuable. I think we tend to, and I do it, I tend to dismiss it. It's just a calculator. It's just the next word. It's just predicting the next word. But are we missing something deep that we can't do that really outperforms us beyond just, it's a bigger computer? So that would be one thing that I would love to change the name, to make us curious about learning from AI, because especially in the next 2 or 3 years, I think we're gonna rapidly go through that point where AI really can add something. Then the last piece I'll just point out is, of course, at the moment, as far as we know, AI doesn't have feelings, doesn't have consciousness, and with Benji and others, we are looking at what would it mean for AI to have affective consciousness? Why are we conscious? It's a great mystery. It's probably very useful in some way. And so it's probable that if we can make conscious AI, that would be an incredibly powerful step. Hopefully beneficial for humans. I think, so maybe I'll just stop there.
Thank you. That leads us into looking at specific sectors, and leading on from what you said, what does it look like if a government actually is conscious? And I'm going to ask Professor Mbembe to give us a sense of how governments can govern better in the age of AI.
That's a very difficult question. We probably have to start from the fact that AI is to some extent borderless. It doesn't know borders. And as a first consequence of this, any form of governance of AI has to have a global reach. I was reading before coming here the UN report, which is entitled Governing AI in the Age of Humanity, they call it. And the report was making a very strong point precisely on the global nature of any form of governance that we might think of putting in place in order to regulate this expanding field and make it responsible and accountable. So that's the first principle. Any form of governance should have a global reach. Second, this means that it should be inclusive. As we speak, there are many documents, there are guidelines, most of which are, in fact, when properly considered, originating from but a small part of the world, from few countries. I think the report mentions 12 countries. We have to make this more inclusive. The definition of the governance of AI has to be more inclusive. It has to be open to many more stakeholders, not only governments, but also powerful cultural institutions, actors, etc. AI is impossible to think about without a set of key resources, most of which are extracted from the soil, and for that matter, from the African soil. So a global governance of AI has to take into account that material fact. In what ways, of course, that is being debated, but those material dimensions of a form of intelligence which looks artificial or immaterial have to be brought to the table when we think about governance. Those are three basic principles I think we can put on the table when it comes to imagining a new architecture of global governance of artificial intelligence.
Thank you. That's fascinating food for thought. But then we expected nothing less than food for thought from this panel. And Pelenomi Moloya, we've had great discussions about AI from the African soil, to use your term. But how can the African perspective go beyond AI made in Africa for Africa and in fact contribute to global AI development?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, at our company, Lelapa AI, our main focus is ensuring that the way that we define AI for ourselves is not made in reference to what currently exists and what has been developed in the West. That it's really important for us to forge our own path in determining what we build, who we build it for, how we build it for them, and really to support the local ecosystem. We call it infrastructure, you know. Our governments, our companies really require the support in getting these products and services into people's hands. And we firmly believe that the way to do this is through digital technology exposure, and then layering the language component on top. You really like, instead of stretching the space-time continuum, you're squishing it together so that people don't have to travel in order to access basic products and services. But in the larger scheme of things and in the long term, it was mentioned earlier in the talks that Africa really does genuinely have an opportunity to define and lead on what AI for the future can look like, predominantly in the space of what we proudly call like little language models or small language models. There is this huge misconception that you need exorbitant amounts of data and compute, electricity, minerals from African soil in order to be able to support the type of intelligence that we want to see in the future. And the fact of the matter is that in the resource-constrained environment, we don't have those resources. Does that mean we're not going to build the technology? Absolutely not. We're going to be clever, we're going to use our big brains, and we're going to build technology that then works for our context and doesn't necessarily require those things. But outside of that, and I mean, to be honest, Ashila, you probably don't know, but you're an influencer, and you have influenced the philosophy of companies like mine in terms of what it means from a decolonial perspective to not only build the technology itself, but how do we then embed our principles and our foundational ways of being and relating to each other and knowing into the technology that we build. The current technology is based off of a history of machine intelligence built for warfare. It's been bought for commercialization and the furthering of capital gains. What do we have when we have technology that is built on, and I know it's cliche, but it's such a good one, on the principles of Ubuntu, right? What does it mean when we have AI that is serving to serve the collective good of humanity and all that we share the planet with? How does that affect things like climate change, how we relate together, how we use technology to make life better for more people rather than a small percentage of the people who already have everything. Yeah.
Fascinating, Ubuntu and AI coming together. I look forward to seeing the outcomes. Dr. Nasila, you were the first chief data officer that I ever met, or chief data and analytics officer at First National Bank. So that raises the question of how large corporates and how businesses can prepare for this coming age of AI.
So, I mean, corporates like ourselves have always spearheaded innovations that comes up with products and services that meet the customer needs. But to redefine the role of corporates in this AI era, it pays to reflect on the current reality, a reality that is made up of geopolitical complexities. Our businesses are being affected today by policies across the world. It helps to reflect on interest rates, especially from organizations that are producing natural resources. It helps to reflect on the digital expectation. Technology has created this expectation where people want things to be digitized, automated, but also AI and emerging technologies are redefining how funds are flowing. Today, America and China are leading in the AI journey, and we're seeing a lot of investments in those regions. Emerging risks ranging from climate to some of the regulations that are coming up because of technology. This has meant that there is no organization or corporate like ourselves that is going to continue surviving doing things the old way. And we're looking at AI as a technology that is mature enough to help us, for example, do things the right way and do the right things, which we call efficiency and effectiveness, but also just to design products and services that are relevant and can meet the current needs. So in my role, for example, as the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the risk function, we can't keep on doing things the manual way. We have to automate things, unlock resources so that we can keep up with how the world is evolving. But AI's role is bigger than just automation. It has socioeconomic implications, and the way we go about AI will redefine how society will turn out. So it's important that our role goes bigger than just using it within the organization. So AI is powering industries, but it's also introducing dangers that could affect how society will turn out. A lot of organizations are doing well because their customers are doing well. If AI impacts them in a negative way in the future, these organizations will struggle. So there's also need to drive partnerships that drive research into AI areas that would help, especially the African continent, to flourish. There is need to share lessons. Organizations like ourselves get to implement things faster. And those lessons around the dangers of AI, successes, especially today, the value proposition of AI is trust and its safety. And that becomes very critical. Already in the African continent, we're falling behind because we're short of the building blocks, infrastructure, data, and making sure that these strategies are built around the identity of the reality of Africa. Our problems are different to other countries, and therefore the lessons we have, if they can be shared with other sectors, could help spearhead maturity in AI.
Highly relevant comments. I had the privilege 3 weeks ago to be at a Google event in Nairobi where they announced investments in AI across the continent, from West Africa to the Eastern Cape, which gave a sense of the incredible innovation they expected to come from this continent in the area of AI. So on that note, I'd love to hear from Dr. Wolcott Bryant what you believe are the opportunities compared to all the challenges we've heard about that AI offer us in the future?
Well, first, though, I'm glad you're at the event. I will say a belief in humanity, so that we don't necessarily need to do an event for AI in Africa specifically, but because the Mind Institute is just as brilliant and representative in leading. Our first to envision as scientists, as those who develop and utilize these tools of artificial intelligence, to question everything all the way along the pipeline. From if you're just using an existing data set to learn how to build models and look at outcomes, ask everything. For everything, ask, what are the 1,000 ways that this could go wrong? How did I not see this or see that aspect? Separate yourself, and I'm a passionate person, so it's a process for me. Separate yourself from your concept or your ideas that you're making. Be passionate, but by separating yourself from it, there's an aspect of what you didn't see. Because at some point, you might want to work on a team or even yourself alone, develop something that will impact humanity. So those principles have to be taught early on as our children will be using, and they already are. I actually had both of my kids join the IBM Saturday Academy, and they were playing around with AI tools in that academy as well. So these questions, I have to tell them to question everything and see everything that can be wrong. So do that along the pipeline, from idea to just playing to building a product to how it impacts the field. Ideally, I think that we would believe that it is synergistic, collaborative, augmenting human intelligence, natural intelligence, and artificial intelligence, if I use the words here, coming together to address the big problems that plague society. I mean, it's very difficult to understand the decisions that 8 billion of us, and maybe it's 10 billion in the next 20 years, are making. How do those decisions impact from, catastrophic negative effects to incredible leaps of humanity? How can you work collaboratively? How do you build this technology to support that? So again, beyond the borders, beyond labeling by continent, just recognizing that we are humans, addressing the big challenges of climate change, addressing the known unknowns. So we say climate is going to change, pathogens will change. Okay, maybe that's a known unknown, but we don't know how. And then there's the unknown unknowns. How do we learn from various artificial intelligences in ways about how to solve problems in ways that we have not thought about before? And then lastly, I'll say, most importantly, start now, start -1, start already on being collaborative and inclusive across the continent and across the globe.
Thank you. Very provocative and tremendous food for thought. We are running 540 seconds behind, so please, any questions, keep short and direct them. First question is there and directed to a specific member of the panel, please. Second question is there. I'm really biased towards that part of the audience. It must be an AI training problem. And third question is there. Fourth question is there.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Simone Zanetti, founder of the Zanetti AI Institute in Johannesburg. I'm glad to be here with so many bright minds, pun intended. So my question is about AI in Africa, for our needs, as has been mentioned by the director earlier. So until a few months ago, I've been teaching that AI simplistically has got three elements: the AI mind, the hardware, and the data. But it turns out now that there is a fourth one that not many are thinking about, which is electricity. So at the moment, Google, you mentioned Google, is feeding Gemini with micronuclear reactors. And Microsoft has been started a new nuclear power station, stopped in 1979, to power Copilot. And Amazon is investing in 3 nuclear power stations to power their AI. And all of the Silicon Valley is investing in nuclear. So for research and development in Africa, we can do anything that we want, and it's going to work. But once we go into production, we want to feed.
You're going to have to ask a question now.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. But without context, it wouldn't make any sense. So, you know, when you prime AI, you need to do that. So, if we want to do productive AI here in Africa without breaking the POPI Act and sending data outside, how are we going to build a data center or an AI data center here if even the US doesn't have enough electricity to feed it, and here we struggle to keep up? So we don't want to end up with AI shedding. That's what I'm talking about. So, so the idea is, does anybody have information about this? Because we can do all the plan that we want for AI without enough electricity. Ain't gonna happen.
I'm going to ask Aisha, have you been sufficiently prompted?
I hope so. I will say a little bit, but also happy to have the other folks on the panel to chip in. I think just being here in Africa and sort of basking in our local context, I would just charge us to innovate. So right now, you think the status quo is big nuclear centers, more energy, more this, more that. We have an opportunity to innovate here and do it differently. We know what kind of the outcomes we are looking for in terms of the behavior of what this AI is. And yes, it'll be maybe a bit of a different and a longer journey, but we have an opportunity to chart our own journey. So my hope is that we don't just keep doing everything that everyone else is doing, because we think that's the way to get there. But maybe
Thank you. Second question was there.
I just want to say, sorry, also, we don't need Gemini. We don't need that much electricity. There's so much we can do with these smaller models to serve the needs of people in the community now. We don't need Gemini.
Great point.
Thank you. My name is Olalekan Samuel. I'm the Research and Innovation Chair for the School of Computing and Mathematical Science at University of Mpumalanga. And I also do research in AI and robotics. I'm very passionate about Africa. And I'm always somebody that evangelizes about African solutions for African problems. So you see, we've been talking about AI. What have we done in terms of how we use AI to solve African problems, especially in terms of helping the government to deliver quality services to the citizens? What are we doing using that? Where is our data center in Africa? We say we want to build AI, but we are still using the tools that are built by outsiders to build AI. How are we building AI in such a way that the solution is helping Africa? So Dr. Aisha Brandt said, we don't want to keep doing everything that everybody keep doing. That everybody is doing. But from my own perspective, how are we not doing everything that OpenAI is doing, Google Gemini is doing?
I think we have that question right here from Pelenomi. The answer right here from Pelenomi.
Yeah, we don't need huge data centers. They would be nice, but there are things like federated learning and distributed computing, which means that you can do things on smaller devices. And that is possible. And places like mine should be working on that kind of technology so that we forge a different path.
Thank you.
Can I just add? I think you've highlighted the importance of people who make good decisions, people in power who are forward-looking, see the opportunity and act. And, I think Mind is a beautiful example of exactly that. So the point is people are really important in this.
Thanks, Professor Bassett. The next question was from another fellow, yes?
So thank you to the panel. My question's for Bruce because he mentioned the C word, and the C word being consciousness. So intelligence is not consciousness. So my question is the reverse question of the first one. So what is intelligence not? And adding to that, how can we be careful not to over-attribute certain, I'd say, human or qualities of the natural world to machine intelligence? So like intelligence, there isn't a good working definition of consciousness, but by consciousness, I mean a phenomenal experience. So the subjective experience of the self, which is embedded, like you rightly said, in the feeling self, but also the embodied self. So going back to your fellow panelist, the body, an embodied experience of the self, because we're also bodies in the natural environment.
Great question, Professor Bassett.
10-second answer, yes. No,
I like that kind of answer.
I'm going to avoid your question and just go back to the point about electricity. One of the things, as I understand it as a complete non-specialist, is that humanity has always lived on the edge of extinction. We've gone through this calorie bottleneck. We had to learn to survive and, grifters, basically. So there's a very good chance that in terms of, electricity, that if we follow that same route with AI, it will lead to some great breakthrough. That consciousness may be, a big part of consciousness may be about being super efficient with very small amounts of resources. So now I'll try and say a little bit in response, but I'm not going to say anything intelligent. I think, as far as I can tell, we're never going to know for sure whether AI is conscious. It's just going to look more and more plausible. It's just going to say the right things to such an extent that the easiest interpretation will be that it's conscious. I mean, you don't know that I'm conscious, right? But it's just easy for you to assume, well, he sort of kind of says things that I would say, maybe, some of the time at least. And so I'm going to just assume he's conscious. And I think that that's likely what's going to happen. So I might reframe it and say, what's the right question? Because we can ask all sorts of philosophical questions that we just go round and round in circles. What's the right question that we should be asking around AI and consciousness? And I don't know what that is. But.
Thank you for not answering the question. There was a question here, but if you don't want to take up your question, I'm not sure who it was. There we go. And there'll be one more question after that, which I'm going to give to this side of the room in the front here.
So I'm going to be very careful. I'm out of my audience. I'm not an academic. I'm a banker. But someone has to ask the dumb questions, right? And I'm going to direct it to Professor Wilcott-Bryant because you use the term unintelligence. We seem to be talking about intelligence, and it seems subtly we are talking also about collective intelligence as a force for good. And that's a great thing. But what about unintelligence and irrationality? Because we go through history. There's been lots and lots of cases of irrational, unintelligent things that actually took us forward. And collective intelligence had to be fought against. And I'm just curious where the set of intelligence plays against the set of irrationality and human behavior. Thanks.
I like the question, but I'm going to redirect it because I think it's an ideal question for Professor Mbembe to answer from a philosophical perspective.
I'm not sure that I have a response to that. I was interested.
Where is intelligence when you need it?
I was interested in the debate on consciousness. Maybe it has some relationship with the last speaker's concerns. You see, I mean, from a philosophical point of view, you mentioned Ubuntu, which is a very important archive coming from this continent. In the Western philosophical tradition, there have always been a big fear about the fact that we are the inventors of these objects and machines. We invent them in order to put them at our service, we, the humans. They are somewhat an extension of who we are. They augment our capacities to the point where there have been a huge fear at the core of Western philosophy, the fear that what we have invented might one day take power over us and turn us into slaves of our objects. And this fear has not at all disappeared with our entrance into the age of artificial intelligence. If anything, this fear has expanded. It has expanded to a point where, as we know, many are now asking for a pause in terms of the development of superintelligence. For what reason? The reason is that we do not know where it might lead. The fear is that it might lead to human extinction, or that it might lead to catastrophic consequences if it's not regulated. And very important scientists have been advocating for that pause. But we know very well that our world and the forces that drive it are not very wise when it comes to having a pause and thinking about whether safety, or what the professor from our friend from Italy was talking about a moment ago, whether those conditions are there. So the key question we have to ask, which we cannot avoid at the launch of Mind, is what path is it that we will take, we humans? Are we up to the challenges, existential challenges, that our new condition at the borders, at the frontier of technology and science are putting to us? It happens that those deep questions, existential questions, were for a long time the purview of the humanities. We seem at some point to have lost sight of them. Nowadays, they are raised by a lot of scientists, especially specialists in astrobiology. They have taken over most of the key questions the humanities were dealing with, and they are dealing with them nowadays. So it seems to me that Mind, Benjamin, has really made a good choice of putting together people from the humanities, from all the various faculties, in order to craft that absolutely important interdisciplinary dialogue, which attends to questions of not only consciousness, but also of meaning, of value. We end up coming back to that. So I just wanted to put those questions straightforward here so that we do not lose sight of some of what is at stake with the technological escalation our world is experiencing today.
Thank you. That was a great question in response to your question, but also a wonderfully interdisciplinary response, which really encapsulates a lot of what we hear about tonight. The last question is for this gentleman, but your question has to be put to Dr. Nasila, being the only one who hasn't taken a question yet. So whatever you ask, he's going to answer what he wants to answer.
I like that. Good afternoon. Excited to be here. My name is Mwekets Indaba. I am part of the IBM family. Specifically, I look after the IBM consulting data and AI practice in the region. When we talk about AI, I think at the center of it, there's data. And we know that when we talk about Africa, the continent, access to digital data, specifically when it comes to languages, is still a problem. So I'm very keen to understand what is the mindset from an institute's point of view, firstly to address the problem of access to data, to be able to then layer the methods and the applications on top of that. Thank you.
Good question for a Chief Data and Analytics Officer.
That later, but maybe just conceptually, we have to make AI a value conversation. And a part of making AI a value conversation is also thinking about all the building blocks required to make AI work for us. Let's not take it for granted. It's very difficult to become AI enabled. As much as we've put in a lot of resources, we realized in the past 2 years that a technology being very mature and its ability to generate human language does not necessarily mean you're going to implement it, you're going to drive efficiencies. And one of the major building blocks is data, and not just data, the right data for the right use. That's why Andrew Ng talks about a data-centric approach. Beyond that, there is intricacies such as the processes we're trying to reimagine. We're talking about ability to integrate it, and to some extent, we're actually seeing in the market small language models that leverage small data, easy to implement than the traditional large language models. But a bigger part of it is humanizing this process and driving change management so that the technology can work with the people for the people. AI brings in a mass amount of change, and all that value chain requires everyone to be a part of the journey, whether it's managing the data for use cases, but building it and driving change, because AI only has value if it's integrated into processes and systems, and people are working it in a new way of working.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that answer, and also appreciate the depth of the responses we've had and of the questions that we've had, because what it really encapsulates, it's like how they describe relationships on social media. It's complicated. There were no glib answers here, but also no glib questions, and it gives you a sense of the depth in which or to which people are taking their thinking in this arena. And I think you're going to see tremendous depth of knowledge emerging from the Mind Institute as a result of this. So thank you to the panel. For our final address of the evening, I'd like to introduce you to someone that was first introduced to me by the late Professor Barry Dwalatsky, who was one of the catalysts for what you see here today. And he introduced this gentleman to me as one of the brightest people that he knew, and certainly is one of the brightest people I've met on the African continent. I'd like to introduce Dr. Solomon Assefa, a Mind Steering Committee member and former VP of IBM Research. He's founder and partner at C1 Ventures. He has 150 peer-reviewed articles and more than 70 patents. He's a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader, and he was honored by the Africa American Institute for his notable contributions to science, technology, and innovation. Dr. Assefa.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Can you hear me? Okay. So I think, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you. And I think you have already heard everything you needed to hear about AI and intelligence. And I think at this point in this evening, maybe I need to be a little bit intelligent and just be very economical and brief with my words. So it is an honor to be here today to mark the launch of the Wits Mind Institute, a groundbreaking milestone, not just for Wits, but for the entire African continent. As you have heard from the previous speakers and the panelists, we are witnessing a very interesting time in our history when artificial intelligence is reshaping the way we understand and interact with the world. As we make further advances in AI, including the intricate computing and power infrastructures that were just discussed, we are opening doors of possibilities we haven't imagined before. We hope to accelerate progress in decoding vast complexities of nature, finding cures to diseases, predicting climate patterns, building resilient economies with decarbonized industries, and understanding further the depths of space. Now, these AI innovations are not confined to labs in distant countries or corporations with oversized valuations or Silicon Valley startups with inflated valuations or trillionaires who influence elections. Africa has always been a cradle for humanity, and now, by embracing and developing AI science and engineering, the continent can be positioned as a cradle for innovation. With its rich resources, diverse perspectives, and untapped potential, Africa is uniquely positioned to leverage AI for its own economic growth and societal transformation, whether it's healthcare, agriculture, education, manufacturing industries, government service delivery, which was earlier discussed, or ease of doing business. This institute will play a pivotal role in ensuring that Africa is not just a consumer of AI technology, but a contributor to AI science, applications, enabling policies, ethical use, deployment, and governance. Today's launch of the Wits Mind Institute is a testament and vision of hardware collaboration across Wits University. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the remarkable leadership from Professor Zebulon Vilakazi, Professor Lynn Morris, Professor Benji Rosman, and my mentor and friend, the late Barry Dolutsky. And of course, I would love to thank the steering committee that turned this idea into reality. I would also like to thank the deans of the 5 faculties at the university with whom I have been interacting quite closely, who have been instrumental in crafting a multidisciplinary and collaborative vision by breaking down walls and silos, and also helping us craft an operational model for the Institute. Your dedication and goodwill have laid the foundation for what will be a world-class Center for AI Development and Research. I also wish to extend my gratitude to industry collaborators. Your support, whether it's financial, intellectual, or strategic, are extremely important for the sustainability of the Institute. Your commitment ensures this Institute will thrive and have the required resources to become an eminent global player for advancing AI science in a very multidisciplinary manner. On a personal note, my journey has been deeply rooted in the amazing work that my global team had done while I was at IBM Research, where I witnessed firsthand how AI can drive scientific breakthroughs. Whether it's through AI models that enable sustainable materials discovery, geospatial foundation models for Earth observation, or AI toolkits capable of predicting early onset of diseases such as diabetes and Parkinson's, the lessons I've learned resonate with the mission of the Mind Institute. The work that will be done at the Institute will have a similar spirit, to push the boundaries of science, to solve problems that matter, and to create tools that empower people. So let us commit to making the Wits Mind Institute a place for scientific discovery, technological progress, and more importantly, a place for hope. Let us collaborate to train the next generation of African scientists, engineers, and thinkers. I believe we can all agree that the future of AI will be brighter and more equitable if African scientists, engineers, policymakers, and industry experts take on significant and influential global role. This vision is at the heart of why we're launching the Wits Mind Institute. Thank you, and congratulations to everyone who made this possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Asefa. Before I ask Professor Lynn Morris to give a vote of thanks, I want to mention to you that there will shortly be a show in the Dome called Journey to the Center of the Milky Way, and you are requested to recline back as far as you can. These seats do recline, which some of you may have discovered. But that's specifically to take advantage of the show that's coming. But in particular, if you suffer from vertigo, then you must recline back as far as possible. If you suffer from severe vertigo, you might want to close your eyes during the show, because you truly are going to go on a journey. But before your journey, I'd like to call on Professor Lynn Morris to propose a vote of thanks.
Thanks very much, Arthur. And first of all, let me thank all of the speakers and the panelists. I thought that was truly a wonderful session. But, you know, this is a really extraordinary moment for our university, our city, our country, and the broader African continent. So thank you all for joining us on this momentous occasion, the launch of the Wits Mind AI Research Institute in this very special venue, the Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome. And this evening we've witnessed the incredible talent that resides here at Wits, a university that prides itself on excellence in both research and teaching. And as announced this evening, we have a formidable collaboration with IBM, the giant of the tech world, as well as partnerships with some of the world's leading AI academic institutions. And here we are launching this incredible institute in the vibrant heart of Johannesburg. The Wits Mind Institute represents not just a milestone for our university, but a leap forward for Africa's contribution to AI. Here we're building AI solutions tailored to the realities and aspirations of our continent, showing the world that Johannesburg and Africa are leaders in the global AI movement. And as you heard earlier, the vision for this institute actually started way back in 2017, following discussions between Prof. Zebulon Vilakazi, the late and much missed Prof. Barry Dwalatsky, and Prof. Solomon Asefa. I do want to make a special mention of Prof. Benjamin Rosman, who at the peak of his academic prowess has agreed to carry this vision forward and serve as its first director. This is no small ask, and I'm sure sometimes he wishes he could go back to his quieter life. But Benji sees the potential of this institute and understands the need for Wits to harness the strengths that exist across all of our faculties. I'd like to thank the Dean of the Faculty of Science, Prof. Nithya Chetty, and the Head of the School of Mathematical and Computational Sciences, Prof. Joel Mocheki, for cultivating an environment of excellence from which the Mind Institute has arisen. I also want to extend thanks to all the current and the future fellows of Mind. These are the people who will carry the torch of innovation and discovery. We are very excited to see the breakthroughs that you will achieve. And of course, thanks to our many partners, both local and global, your support and collaboration have laid a solid foundation for this endeavor. Thank you for the confidence and commitment that you have placed in us. To the events team, who have been at this non-stop for the last few months, my heartfelt thanks to you all. Tembi, Sharona, Reshma, Erna, Shane, and many others. Give those women a bells. And to Catherine Hill, who you recruited to project manage Mind just 2 months ago. Thank you for all your help and attention to detail. And to Dr. Robin Drennan, the Director of the Research Office, always willing to help. So we're still very much in the early phases of Mind, and we invite you to join us as we build the future together. Through our development and fundraising office, headed by Peter Bezuidenhout, we are in discussions with major global technology companies around significant partnerships that will include the development of critical high-level AI skills, as well as specialist bespoke industry research laboratories. And as mentioned by Prof. Rosman, we plan to recruit high-ranking academics to be embedded in each faculty to drive the AI agenda. At this stage, we are in advanced discussions with a major financial services player around an industry chair in AI and sustainable business transformation. This is being championed through the Faculty of Commerce, Law and Management by the Dean, Prof. Jason Cohen. And a chair in digital humanities is also under consideration in the Faculty of Humanities, led by Prof. Mucha Musemwa. The Faculty of Health Sciences has been very active in incorporating AI tools into its research and teaching, and has secured project funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through the efforts of Prof. Bruce Bassett and Prof. Shabir Mahdi. So having strong partnerships with a range of diverse organizations will be an important part of growing a robust and dynamic Mind ecosystem. Please feel free to approach us should you or your organization want to explore the possibilities around a bespoke partnership with Wits Mind. Finally, we have been so fortunate to be able to use this magnificent space for the launch of the Wits Mind Institute. I'm sure part of the attraction for coming tonight, for many of you, was to see the Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome in action. And I know you've had to wait a little while, but it is coming. So I'm pleased to let you know that we're going to show you a short film. And I want to thank the director of the Dome, Dr. Mamita Aish, for assisting us with this. Over the last 2 years, the Faculty of Science has transformed the 64-year-old planetarium into a high-tech, immersive auditorium consisting of 10 digital projectors, and you can see them dotted all around the dome, with an 8K full dome resolution. Each projector has its own image-generating computer and all controlled by a master computer. And the sound has also been upgraded to an 8.2 channel audio system. In this digital dome, you'll be able to see anything from scientific documentaries to a 360-degree animated show. And the show you're about to watch, as we heard before, is called Journey to the Center of the Milky Way, produced by the European Southern Observatory, or ESO. You'll be embarking on this journey, and which will take 7 minutes, you'll travel faster than light from the driest place on Earth, the Alcama Desert in Chile, right to the center of our galaxy, where a black hole is consuming anything that strays into its path. 84 million stars will appear in front of your eyes, each hiding mysteries waiting to be solved. This show is just an example of what can be done in the dome. The aim is to develop our own content, and we already have a short film made by our digital art students that's on display on one of the monitors outside. So for tonight, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show with us. Once it's finished, you're invited to stand up and exit and join us for a cocktail supper served outside, along the passageway, and also up the stairs. We'll have a beautiful view of Johannesburg, and also the beautiful view of the dome where there will be images projected. So once again, thank you for attending this launch of the Wits Mind Institute, and we look forward to continuing to share its success with you. Thank you.
And with them we can delve further into the depths of our universe than ever before. The glowing band of the Milky Way. Home to our Sun, to our solar system, and to billions of other stars and solar systems. These are the constellations Scorpius and Sagittarius, the Scorpion and the Archer, just 2 of the 88 that creep across the night sky. Modern visible light and infrared telescopes